Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the school committee meeting to order on Wednesday, August 24th at 7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to read the Douglas Mission Statement for Douglas Public Schools. The Douglas Public Schools offer diverse learning experiences that meet the academic, social, physical, and emotional needs of all students. We provide a safe, supportive, and challenging learning environment in which students may achieve academic success and personal growth. Decisions are made in the best interest of our students. We don't have any student representatives,
We
correct?
don't. We will start
this
next.
evening? Do we have Beth Bergstrom in the meeting? Did she join us? So
She
we can
just
reflect?
joined us now.
Thank you. So let the record reflect that Beth Bergstrom is attending via Zoom. I'd like to open the forum up for public comment if anyone would like to come forth.
I'm sorry?
Public comment? Seeing that there are none, we're going to move over to any old business that we need to discuss.
None at this time.
We're going to move over to the new business and to the superintendent's report, please.
Well, welcome back, everyone. So just want to give quick, brief updates. We're going to call the principals up and the directors up to give an update to the start of the school year. But just want to start off by saying a thank you to a lot of people. First off, thank you to the school committee. We had a great retreat, which we'll talk about later on, to look at our goals. Thank you to Courtney, to the principals, to special education, Office of Student Support Services, our custodians, our cafeteria staff, our administrative assistants. A lot of people have worked hard the past 6 to 8 weeks to get school ready for students next week. It was funny, I was out with a friend of mine over the weekend, and they said, "You work over the summer? What do you do over the summer?" I said, "What do you think happens to close out one school year and get ready for 1,000 kids to enter the next year?" But there was a lot of work. I thank people for their efforts and everything. So just a big thank you to everyone. We're excited to have our students back on Wednesday, staff back on Monday. We welcomed new staff today, which was awesome. So that's great. So we're going to call each of the principals up. We're going to start with Cindy Sosha at the primary school.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So I'm going to start with what's been going on at the primary during the summer.
Sorry.
That's okay. I like echo. So we've had some exciting things happening this summer. One of them will be that we have renovated, kind of upgraded our library to make it more student-friendly, and that's courtesy of the PTO funding that they provided. So if you walk by, it's orange and green and blue cushions and sofas and chairs and these little rockers on the floor for the kids to sit at a real low table. There's all kind of little mushroom seats, and it's just adorable. So every time a staff member has come into the building, you can hear them scream as they go down the hallway. I was going to cover the windows just to, make it like a big unveiling, but they have been so excited to see it. So I know that the students will love it. So that's one thing. We also have, and again, courtesy of the PTO, a book vending machine. And it has tokens, so students will be able to earn a token. We'll decide as a staff, how do they do that? They can go down to the vending machine and get a book as a reward and incentive, however we want to use it. So that's something that is adorable. It's absolutely amazing. The flex room that we have has been moved and relocated to a better position in the building. We've also been able to put a calming room within the classroom. So it's almost done. We just need a little bit of padding, and I think that's being ordered. So that should alleviate other kids seeing kids in the hallway that are in distress, because it'll be right in the classroom. So they'll be able to just kind of, guide that student right into that calming area. And again, we put in flexible seating, we put in some dividers for the students, so we're looking forward to using that room in a better way. So those are the things that are going on that are very exciting. As far as the first 2 days of school, for PD, we have preschool is piloting a new assessment tool, which is part of the STAR, but it's called My IGD. So where they got that name, it's Individual Growth Development Indicator. And it's only for 4-year-olds, and it's an indicator for kindergarten skills. Are they going to be ready to go into kindergarten? And it'll be the same idea. They'll have a beginning, middle, and end of the year assessment. So we're getting trained on that. So the preschool teachers will be trained. We have another ST Math training that first day for teachers. They have some new developments, new techniques and things that they want to share with the staff. We also have our special education teachers, our paras, our ABAs will have some professional development with Dr. Merrick during the day. We have our emergency medical team meeting going on different times during the day. So it's a very busy day, but within that day, the teachers will have from an hour, hour and a half to be in their classroom, work with their paraprofessionals, get their classes set up. We're pretty much set up anyway because they've been in and taking care of most of those things. But it'll give them time to meet as teams, kind of collaborate, where we started, what are we doing, and things like that. So that's the first day. Second day, we start with the nurse who's doing some EpiPen training. She'll talk about if we have any diabetics in the school, any allergies, things like that. And then we have our STAR Renaissance training. And again, that one is to move us forward. So we just started it, as you know, last year. This year, we want to move forward and do those CBMs, the curriculum-based measures. Some of the teachers started to do them at the end of the year, and those are progress monitoring. They're quick, like 1 to 2 minute dipsticks of the child's progress, and you can do them every 2 weeks. So we're getting training on that. And again, Dr. Merrick will meet with some of the paras and the ABAs to do more behavior management techniques. We're also going to be talking about differentiation, the MTSS, the Tier 1 interventions, and we also have supply drop-off that day for first graders in the afternoon, so that they can come in, see the building, bring their things down to their classroom, the teacher will be there, and it kind of reduces the anxiety for their first day. So our first day is Wednesday for grade 1. Our pre-K and K have screening on August 31st and the 1st. They have orientation September 6th, and then their first day would be on September 7th. And as far as staffing goes, we are in need of a special education teacher in the flex room and a grade 1 inclusion paraprofessional. So the new staff so far has been 4 new paraprofessionals and 1 kindergarten teacher, and as of today, 1 special education teacher. And as Dr. Vieira said, we want to thank our custodial staff. Our floors are so shiny. They won't stay that way that long, but they are so shiny, and you know, everything looks new, and even though it's the oldest building in the district, you'd never know it. You know, it looks really, really nice. Now, if we could just have cooler weather, I'd be golden.
Yeah.
All right, did I cover everything that I'm
You
supposed to
did,
cover?
except for questions people might have.
Questions?
So what's the enrollment looking for kindergarten this year?
Not bad, we had some movement, so the classes are about 16, 17, so it's not bad. I
Compared
was
to
worried
previous
there for a
years.
while, but we had a little bit of movement, so. And I think for first grade, it's about the same. Everyone that we've been picked up, they're all going into first grade, so it's about the same.
Okay.
How many teachers are there for kindergarten?
5.
It's a small class. Seems small.
It was smaller the year before. Mhm. And our preschools are just overloaded. I mean, we're at max. We did squeeze some in because, again, some people had some movement. They wanted 5 days. They realized they can't afford 5 days, things like that, or their work schedule didn't allow for it. So we were able to take almost everyone off of the waiting list and put them into a spot.
That's good. Okay, that's all I have. Great.
Good?
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll have our new elementary school principal, who's been with us for almost a month, Anthony DeFonso.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Evening, welcome.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to meet three of you, and Ms. Salas, I've had the pleasure to meet already. So thank you for having me, and I just first want to say that although I've only been here for roughly a month, I can say unequivocally that the supportive nature of the district is very, very obvious from administration to colleagues to staff I've met. And I was fortunate enough to have a popsicle meet and greet with families, and I was a little worried at how many people would show up. It was about 150 degrees out that day, and we probably had, I don't know, maybe like 60 or so people there. It was very well attended, especially for the time and the heat. So I was really touched by that. So that was a really nice way to start. So start a school update. To echo a lot of what Ms. Sosha said, custodians are phenomenal. Mr. Pope and his staff have just been great. You need something done, it's done right, it's done well, quick, so they're just phenomenal. So a couple of things that we're going to go over. Right now, we're at our enrollment of about 339 students total. That is a fairly fluid number. We have a few new registrations this last week, so that number can vary, but 339 roughly. And we, in terms of Monday, for PD, a lot of it is similar to Ms. Sosha. After Dr. Vieira's convocation, we're going to have a staff meeting. That'll be my first time to meet with the staff, so I'm looking forward to that. I've been fortunate enough to have about 35 one-on-one meetings with staff members so far this summer, so I thought that would be a nice way to kind of jumpstart the relationship building, especially being new. So I was very happy that many folks were able to do it. We'll be having grade level meetings that first day. Staff is going to have some time for classroom setup, like Ms. Sosha said, about an hour and a half. Some time to do some required mandated training that they have to do. We're going to be continuing with our ST Math PD that day from last year, continuation. Dr. Merrick will take our SPED staff for a SPED overview, including paras, ABAs, and teachers. And then we'll be doing the same things, the emergency, medical emergency response team, getting all our protocols in place, making sure everyone's on the same page for that. We'll also be using STAR again. I understand this is the second year in the district. I've had experience with STAR in the past, and it is a very useful tool and a lot of good information. And I think as staff gets more familiar with it, we'll be able to do more with it and use that information to get deeper. So I look forward to that. PD has already started today a little bit with our paras from Dr. Merrick, and so that was really good to get a jump start on that. We are doing a supply drop-off on Monday from 3:30 to 4 for our second and third graders, and then on Tuesday from 3:30 to 4 for our fourth and fifth graders. And some parents have reached, we sent out an email, put it on social media, so a couple parents have reached out for change of dates because they couldn't make it, so we've been able to accommodate that, which was nice. For day 2 of the PD, same as Ms. Sosha, EpiPen training, the STAR training will be that day, MTSS as well, which is one of our big focus points this year in the district. And I want to also make a shout out to PTO purchased thousands of dollars worth of books, also a book vending machine, and that's just an incredibly generous gesture on their part that you don't see very often. So I was very impressed by that. So I'm very appreciative. In terms of staffing, we are currently have one open paraprofessional position. There's a potential for a second. And in terms of teaching positions, we are in the process of filling our last one, which is a special education inclusion position. So that's where we stand right now, and the plan going forward to fill those. We're going to have the para position reposted tomorrow on SchoolSpring, so kind of be at the top of those the searches. So I hope to have that finalized. Any questions?
I just want to thank you for having the popsicles with the principal day and like just, initiating that and initiating the, opening the, really, building a relationship with the families just kind of right off the bat.
Yeah.
I think that was awesome.
And I can't thank you enough for coming too. The support means a lot, and that's great. And I think it starts with relationships and goes from there. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. O'Brien.
Good evening. I'm still trying to digest the extra hot dogs that were left over from last night's picnic. We did have a new student in sixth grade orientation picnic last night. We had over 150 families, students, new students to the district that weren't just grade 6, their siblings and their parents, and it went very well. It was a nice, easy way to get them back into school, and a nice, relaxing way to do it. And then we'll look to dovetail what we did last night with the first day of school. We're always into continuous improvement. How can we get better from last time? And we had a lot of social emotional issues at the middle school. A lot of students struggling still with the lockdown, the COVID. So this year our focus is on the joy factor. Like, what is exciting about coming to school and learning? We want every student to look forward to coming to school, and at the end of the day, be thrilled that they went there. So what can we do specifically to enhance that? So a lot of our training the first few days, besides the district curriculum accommodation plan and the blueprint, is the UDL review, some data-driven learning to make sure that we're making progress. And then we're really focusing on engagement and how can we make students so eager to come to school. And you look at some of the classes that do a lot of hands-on activities, that's what we want to build upon from last year. We received the ASA grant, which funds our STEM program, and we got some new offerings, medical detectives, and I believe Mr. Caesar spoke at the end of last year about the new offerings. The amount of supplies that came with that, with the grant, is overwhelming. We do not have a place to store all the supplies, so it's kind of scattered but safe. Really looking forward to that as well. Over the summer, we did have to rearrange some classrooms to fit. We have about 300 students right now at the middle school. Sixth grade is going to be tight. It's our biggest grade, 107 students as of now. Looking at a class size there, about 28. Some of our related arts classes are a little bit bigger, but we'll give extra support to them with rescheduling some of the paras and ABA's positions as well. Speaking of positions, we hired a new special education teacher for the Flex Academic Center. Jay mentioned went back to the severe, so there was a need to fill that, and I'm thrilled, and I think you'll meet her next meeting. Margaret Hack, we're thrilled to have her. Young teacher with a lot of experience, so that's good, and she fit right in with the staff. Over the summer, we also had CPI training, which is crisis prevention and intervention. The best part of that is the day one, which is de-escalation. How do you approach a student who's in distress and have them calm down as quickly as possible? So we had that over the summer. We had some of our ESY folks decided to join us this year. So Jasmine Nunez will be an ABA with us this year that we hired for the ESY program, so we're thrilled to have her, again, coming with experience. She comes from the Boston Public Schools. We got very lucky with some of these folks landing in our lap. We still have 2 inclusion teachers to hire, but I'm relatively certain that we can land that plane tomorrow. We're just wrapping up some things. Unfortunately, I thought I was the best principal ever when July we had all the hiring done. I'm like, this is cake. Everyone should be like this. And then August hit, and once one domino fell, then the other one, and people moving around, and other ones, and then you get some folks that, one of our teachers' lifelong dream was to be an elementary school teacher. She got a grade 2 position, so we're going to miss her. That's Roshan Valapur. She did a great job co-teaching in the 8th grade. So we have to make that up, but again, I'm pretty certain that we can land a plane on those 2 positions tomorrow. And we'll have 1 ABA position, and that will be hopefully signed, sealed, and delivered tomorrow as well.
I just want to say that when you were talking about the joy, and I think that's an awesome theme that you have, but in my head, I was just thinking about what my kids would say as to their answers to why you were happy at school or what would make your school day perfect, and I can only imagine what some of these kids will say. It'll be interesting to hear, but I'm guessing recess all day, no homework, PE all day.
Donuts.
Yeah, food, unlimited supplies.
Well, we did, speaking of food, we did second chance breakfast last year for 7th and 8th graders. We're going to include 6th grade this year, so all students will get brought to the cafeteria for breakfast and lunch, which worked really well. And staff reported that decreased some of the discipline and behavior issues, just making sure the kids had food in their belly and were well hydrated. But the enjoyment factor, and the superintendent met with some students as well, they want that engagement, they want the hands-on, they want to be able to talk amongst themselves, to work with them. They're really into discovery, and that was a reoccurring motif for grades 6, 7, and 8. That's what they want, and they specifically mentioned some teachers and what they did in their classrooms that made it more interesting. So we're going to take what they said, what the students want, and what I think as an old man is a little different than what they think is fun, naturally. But really get them involved and engaged in the classroom instead of just being, most of our kids are wonderful children, but they're compliant, not engaged. So we want to increase that engagement factor, that joy factor of learning. We got a few tricks up our sleeves still. Maybe karaoke at lunch again will work
cool.
pretty well.
Well, I got to go to the 6th grade initiation yesterday. It was great. There was a lot of energy in those kids, and there was joy on their faces. They were super excited to see their friends, and the magician was awesome. It had, the whole group of them engaged, so.
Thank you. We had over 15 students show up to help out, already in the school, to help out 7th and 8th grade students, help out the incoming 6th graders last night taking tours. It was nice to see that. And they a lot of smiling faces, so I think they're ready to come back. I'm sure the parents are ready for them to come back, too.
Well, middle school is a little scary, but she's ready. I did have a question about the class size, being 28. I know that this class, when they were 5th graders, the biggest class was 26. So, and we had closed school choice. Have we had influx into the district with this grade?
We're still having more students show up living in district almost daily. We do have a few students that have left, their family has moved. I talked to one parent last night, and they said there's a lot of building going in Douglas, new houses going up,
Okay.
people coming in, but it's a great community, and I'd much rather have the desire for people to come here than to leave here.
Yeah. So is there going to be, so in a class size of 28, will there be a second person in that classroom?
On the inclusion classrooms, there will be.
Okay.
They'll be supported in those, for those students by special education teachers as well as by paras and ABAs.
Okay.
It's more of a space issue right now because some of the classrooms are pretty tiny.
Okay. If there's social emotional needs that are in the class of 28, will there be help
Well,
with
we
that?
have Jess Hurley, who's a school psychologist at high school. She'd be working out of the middle school this year, along with our school adjustment counselor, Kayla Vidian. And we also planning that into the lessons as well, the SEL piece and how to work with it. We expanded, last year, one of the most successful class was mindfulness, taught by Erin Alcott, which really have students think about why they're thinking, that metacognition. And that's being offered more to more students. I'd like to have that as a daily start-off point for the students. And so we're trying to build it that way to meet their needs. I talked to Officer Filoni. It's been a pretty quiet summer in Douglas. My phone hasn't rang too much with any type of severe issues. So hopefully they'll be pulling out of that COVID tailspin that a lot of students were in.
And I know there's a homeroom. Are they doing some of that mindfulness?
Yeah, well, they have time in the morning and also we have a 6-day cycle. So when that comes to the long block, our lunch block, that would be devoted to SEL. Because what we found out last year was that time in the morning was just not enough to get through it. And the students' feedback was we just want to talk. We don't want to be told what to think about. We just want to talk and have the adults hear us. So that will work out as well.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the size of the 6th grade class. I mean,
28's high.
That, to me, it's a huge transition. I mean, so somebody's got to put their thinking caps on, because that 28, I think, is just way too much. And that's just, I don't have a child that's in 6th grade. So,
When I went into the classrooms, it is a lot of desks. I mean, it doesn't, my daughter sat at one, and initially it doesn't look cramped, but then I'm thinking with a body in every desk, yikes, you know. 28 is a lot.
Yeah, we have to be smart on how we use the classrooms. The good thing about the 6th grade wing, there are some classrooms that are not being used. So the students, teachers can make a smaller footprint in their classroom with their own material by doing that. And they also will spread them out between the two classrooms with an inclusion teacher or a para or ABA with them as well, break them up into small groups and come back together. I don't want them sitting in their chairs for an entire day, 28 people. I mean, my knees would give out by then.
Is that something that we're going to look in on and just kind of see how it's going frequently? Like,
Yes.
we'll get reports on.
Yeah, I would be meeting with the superintendent September 8th to give him an update one-on-one on what's going on. And superintendent is great about coming through the building and seeing with his own eyes what's going on.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
It'll be a watch item for us.
Yeah.
One thing I'm doing this year with the principals that I had done in previous years is I'm meeting with them twice a month. We have a standing agenda. So they were submitting a weekly report to me, and then I would take that weekly report and go into the buildings and talk to them. Now we're doing a little more structure, so I'm meeting with them every other week. Some of them first and third Mondays and Tuesdays, others second and fourth Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but that'll give you the ability for us to have a standing agenda. Some of the stuff that we have on there, parent concerns, student issues, we're talking about our goals, we're talking about the blueprint, we're talking about MTSS, we're talking about supervision and evaluation, we're talking about social emotional issues, so we'll have that time dedicated at least twice a month, an hour every other week for us to sit and talk about the issues. But let's see what happens that first couple of weeks. I know that Bob and Matt will have extra attention down there on the first floor. First off, you always have that when kids transition from first to second, from fifth to sixth, and from eighth to ninth. So we have that space. It's great to have Jess Hurley down there again this year in order to be able to provide some additional supports and resources to staff and kids. And that sixth grade team is unbelievable. If we could bottle them and spread them out, it'd be awesome.
So that she's located on that level of the building?
She's located on the main floor in the guidance suite.
Okay.
But before she was housed at the high school, now she's housed at the middle school. So they have an additional resource for staff and for students.
I mean, I know that team is used to, when we did the budget cuts, was my daughter's year, that she hit the sixth grade and they had 27 kids in the classroom. So, but I know you're going to have struggles.
Struggles.
And so that, to me, is, because it's an extra body, the social emotion coming out of COVID and everything else. I just think it's definitely going to be a watch item that we're all
Yep.
going to have to be on point. So,
Just like to thank a few people too. Jeff Collette's staff, Dave Pope, Andrew Charette, and Steve Waring did a tremendous job this summer. Also, the middle school secretary, Tracy White, just been unboxing supplies for the last 3 weeks with the shipping delays that coming in. Got a bunch of material in today that I was absolutely thrilled about, some curriculum material for the staff. But she's been very busy this summer and did a good job. And the custodians as well through a hot summer. A lot of sweat equity put into that building.
thank you so much, and thank your staff and the administrators as well. They just do phenomenal, along with the custodians too. So I agree with this. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. Romano and Tara Bennett coming up from the high school. Just before Josh says anything, today's Josh's last day, and I just want to thank him for everything that he's done for Douglas and for our students. He's been student-centered, student-focused. He's creative. He's innovative. He wears his emotions on his sleeves many times, sometimes good, sometimes...
in a good way.
But in a good way. And I think the part that I just want to highlight right now is today's Josh's last day. I think this speaks to his dedication to Douglas and to the community and to kids. I saw him, we had a going-away party at 1 o'clock, and I wished him all the best. He said, I'm going to see you tonight at 7 o'clock. I said, you're coming to school committee at 7 o'clock? He goes, I'm not going to let Tara do this by herself. I want to be there to talk about it. So thank you for coming tonight and doing this. I know you stayed straight through, but we appreciate it on your last day. And Tara Bennett just started Monday, 2 days ago.
72 hours ago.
72 hours ago
If that.
as our new interim high school principal. So I'll turn it over to Josh and Tara.
Great, thank you. Good evening. Thank you very much for having me here. And as Dr. Vieira indicated, yep, we're 72 hours strong into the principalship here at the high school. But I really do have to give a lot of kudos and thanks to Dr. Romano here and Mr. Vega as well in terms of just getting everything up and going and running and having so much prepared the thought of opening up a building in 5 days as a principal can be a bit overwhelming, which it is, but they've been fabulous with a lot of support. And it's been nice to meet the staff as they're coming in, just especially with the sports that are happening. We have that opportunity of having the activity in the building, and so it's been really nice to meet the staff. And I look forward to seeing them all on Monday and moving forward in that area. First group of students we'll really see will be on Friday. We have our 9th grade orientation. So really excited to meet the incoming 9th graders at that time. And again, that agenda is all set and ready to go. So I'll just put on the welcome face and know that there's a trusting group to get the kids up and ready for their start on Wednesday. The other principals and what they've indicated, our PD days on Monday and Tuesday will be full, but also opportunity for the staff to get together and get to know me a little bit, for me to get to know them as well, and more importantly, for them to get to know each other, possibly in different ways. So we have some just nice activities that will take place to be intermingled in between some of the information that we need to present out, because it can be a lot, and I appreciate that because I've been doing that this week. So to divulge everything all at once sometimes can be a bit overwhelming. So we'll start by celebrating the start of the school year with our staff coming in. We will have some safety training focusing on ALICE training, as well as the different resources that we have for our staff and our students for support, such as Carosalis, which is something that just came into the district at the end of last year, and some of the other team committees that we will have, again, that provide supports and services throughout the school year. We will have our all means all concept full and really bright for our staff, really focusing on the inclusion of everyone, and that's not just students but also staff. So really just focusing on recognizing that we do need to meet the needs of students, just as admin needs to meet the needs of staff, and staff needs to just all come together and support one another. So we're Mr. Vega and I are working on that and working how that will be presented out to support that theme. There will be the special education trainings for our teachers as well as our paras that will take place. There will be collaboration time for our departments. Also, our co-teachers will have that time as well. They will have setup time, prep time in their classroom over the 2 days. We will also go through and focus on some of the instructional focuses that we will have, and connecting it back to the EdEvals, just again so that we can have some good dialogue. I need to learn. I'm very much in a learning phase right now, and I'm excited to be able to hear and listen to what staff wants to, what they want to share, what they want to say, and be able to build on that vision and those comments throughout the year. For our student days, we will again celebrate. We're going to change things up a little bit. We're going to celebrate the students, in particular our class of 2023. What an exciting time for our seniors. Being a mom of a student who just graduated in 22, I totally appreciate how exhausting this year is going to be for our seniors and for our parents and our guardians. Just really want to celebrate them. They've worked really hard, and this is a very exciting year for them. So we will have a nice celebration as an all-school assembly to start that, and then we have our Chromebook distribution, and then we will have over the 2 days, obviously they'll meet in their classrooms, really trying to work on building relationships, and we'll have our grade level meetings as well. So again, it's a little bit of everything on those first couple of days, but again, the focus is really going to be all means all, and developing those relationships, and just kind of getting the students settled down so that we can start some great routines when we come back from the long weekends. So looking forward to those opportunities. And I think that's what I have.
I think you summed it up very well.
Thanks. Any question?
I just did one last posting for you that I forgot about, so.
Oh, yes, our
Had to
staffing.
get one more email into
Yes,
Lauren.
I apologize. So our staffing. So we still have some staffing that we need. We have a posting for an ELA teacher, a Spanish teacher, an ABA. We also have a need for a para in the flex room, and we're looking for a grade 12 advisor as well as a drama club advisor. So those are our postings. We are on school spring. We are actively trying to connect with people that I know, out in the community as well. And, we have a couple of movements, so we will, move forward and get those interviews going forward as quick as possible.
So I'm learning that we won't be seeing Josh in September, is that?
We will not be
Okay.
seeing Josh in September.
All right, so, well, thank you for being here, Josh. And
Thank
I
you
just
very
want to
much.
say, like, we've appreciated all your dedication to, and it's been so evident how you care about the students, so we're going to miss you in that respect. But thank you for being here tonight, and Tara, welcome.
Thank you.
We have a great group of kids, so.
You guys have definitely upgraded to Tara, so I think that you don't need to worry much about the school's in amazing hands. So, it was great that having Miss Bennett take over was really great because, if it was like an assistant principal who had never been a principal before, I would have felt a lot more. But like here, I could just kind of like throw a whole bunch of stuff at Miss Bennett, and she could just kind of figure it out. Like she knows it. Like she knows schools. She knows how things work. She knows the Valley actually. So it was a really great match for Douglas High School. So
Thank you.
I was really happy
Thank
about
you.
that.
Best of luck.
It was a huge weight off my shoulders to, I don't have to worry about Army and Leominster and Douglas, like a lot of the Douglas stuff. I was so worried about my Desi. And he's obviously in very good hands.
Best of luck, definitely, yeah. I wish you all the best.
So I have one of those children that's going to be graduating this year, and Dr. Romano was part of my son's 2021 year, which was very challenging because they really didn't get to feel like the seniors, during that time. And I know Dr. Romano tried really hard. I gotta get used to that.
I'm not used to it, so it's okay. Yeah.
I know he did the best he could, but it'll be a very exciting year. I know that my daughter was, it's a little hard when you hear that your principal's leaving, and I guess some really good teachers are not going to be here this year. And that was kind of hard on some of the kids because those are the faces that they're used to. So,
Absolutely.
they're going in a new school year without the masks and all that, and it's going to be very different. But there's also the fact that they're coming into new faces, and I think it's it'll be an interesting school year. But
Yeah,
I think
and that's why we want to celebrate them on the first day.
That'll be
And-
awesome.
And actually, something that's new as well is we're going to do a senior sunrise. So there was a request for a senior sunrise, so they're going to be coming here with Mr. Vega and myself, and we'll be watching the sunrise. So let's hope we actually have a sunrise on the first day of school. So again, just something new, and then as they are heading out, we'll do a senior sunset. That's just a really nice opportunity, again, to bring the closeness of the close-knit of the school and the seniors. And again, I so appreciate it. I lived it. My daughter was a class officer, and the number of things that she still wasn't able to do last year, it's hard, it's heartbreaking. So I totally feel for it, and we'll do what we can to celebrate the seniors, as well as everyone else. But again, we want to, this is it, this is as hard as it is. It's an exciting year for them.
thank you,
You're
Dr.
welcome.
Romano, for everything.
You'll be back in a few minutes.
Yeah, I'll actually
Don.
be up here in a few minutes.
I just want to say, on behalf of everybody that is not able to be here, past people that have been on this board, Josh, you have been a guiding light for all of us. You've been a voice of reason. You advocate really well for your staff. The kids, most importantly, are the kids. At the end of the day, you care. Your heart is on your sleeve. You care passionately about those kids. I am so grateful for you being part of our community, and I know you're going to move on and do great things for Leominster, and I'm sad to see you go, but can't wait to see what happens in the next part of your career, so thank you.
And then it's going to be very exciting here too, I think. So I think things are going to be great here too. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks.
Hold on. Beth is, hi, Beth, you want to start over?
Beth was on the interview.
I can't see or hear.
Hi, Beth.
No, she's on the. Oh, Beth is.
We're really starting over.
Let's just give her a second.
My husband's watching on YouTube, too.
I think we must do like a 7-second delay in case Mr. O'Brien cusses.
Our phone rings.
Okay, we'll come back if Beth comes back.
Okay.
All right. And finally, we have Dr. Merrick. We lose a doctor, we gain a doctor. So welcome, Dr. Merrick.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening.
So nice to see you all in person. I've only seen you online for the most part. Well, everybody stole my thunder about staffing, and you heard it was a lot about special ed. No different than the rest of the country, right? But we're narrowing it down. The gap is closing, so I'm feeling really good about going into next week. Unfortunately, it is kind of down to the final line, but we will get there. First of all, I'd just like to shout out to everybody who participated and taught in ESY, our Extended School Year Services. We had about, in total, 34 students that participated in ESY this year. It went smoothly. It is never a perfect game in town. Usually the first week is a little bit bumpy. This was no different than any other experience I've had, but we got through it. It is a challenging activity in that your most vulnerable population gets a new teacher and a new building and a new schoolroom and a new related service provider, and so they have to adjust, and so do we. And I think the kids did a very nice job of doing that, and it went very smoothly, and we did finish out nicely. We also had about 7 students that received compensatory ESY services as well through tutoring, and that was done very professionally and well as well. So I think they benefited from receiving that service. I have had the privilege of, since I've been here, talking with stakeholders and providers and teachers and the principals about the direction and what do they see about what's working really well in the district and perhaps some areas that we need to focus on a little bit more. And so I thought I'd just touch upon a couple of those this evening. You've heard several times the principals have referenced that our special education teachers and our ABAs and PAs have been engaged in some professional development. This area is specific to behavior, and as we come out of these terrible word COVID times, we're seeing a little bit of a spike in different behaviors and social and emotional deficits, right? So that certainly came out loud and clear that we need some training around behavior. How do we determine the functions of behavior? How do we collect data? How do we analyze data? And how do we change the students' behavior moving forward? And so we began our PD today, actually, with our new teachers, and we will continue that next week on the 30th. And then on our 2 PD days during the school year, we'll also have some other PD related to that. And we're also going to have that person come in and supervise some of our most needy populations in the classroom and provide us some feedback. So I think everybody's really looking forward to that. But that came out loud and clear that we need some support around behavior. So we've already jumped in and we've started doing that. The other area, no surprise, is SEL, and that is a broad scope of areas, everything from mindfulness all the way up to signs of suicide, right, and everything in between. And so we will be looking at some SEL training as well for staff moving forward. And then the other thing that jumped out was that we need some more intensive supports by way of multisensory reading. And so we are going to put a few teachers through some intensive training this school year related to multisensory reading. So that would be your Orton, Gillingham, Wilson training. The other thing that was, is certainly on Dr. Vieira's agenda as well as the MTSS, and I look forward to rolling all of that out with my colleagues during the school year, but that certainly came out loud and clear that we need some more intensive Tier 2 supports. There was a lot of kudos as Josh is walking out the door for co-teaching, and him and my predecessor Neely bringing that into the district, and so I want to thank him for doing that. And seems to be a need for some more PD around that and how to do that well in our classroom, so we'll be looking at that in the future as well. And then, of course, the most fun thing that came to the surface was the district's interest in unified sports, which I get chills just talking about it, because in my prior district, we had a small group that started Special Olympics, but even further, I had a parent who came to see me one day in my office, and she said to me, my son, who is in 2nd grade, he just wants to wear a shirt that says the district name on the back and have a number. He just wants to play sports. And so we started an after-school sports program for kids with our most needy children. And it was probably the most rewarding thing that I've ever done in my career. We had 60 participants, 30 at the lower grades, 30 at the higher grades, and we actually used the gym out in Rutland, Massachusetts, if you know anything about Rutland. There's nowhere to go in Rutland, so the parents stayed there with their child, and it was a nice little support group for the parents while they were sitting there watching their child play sports. And so we killed 2 birds with 1 stone. So the parents had a support group, and the kids had just a blast. So I'm deviating from the topic, but I am so excited to get involved in this in some way. So I look forward to talking about that further in the future. Again, staffing was covered. I thank you for inviting me to the district. It has been a great fun so far. I also want to welcome my new coordinators. We had Suzanne Shaw started a week ago, and she will be serving our pre-K to grade 5 population. She'll be doing all the team meetings. And we have Liz Lavery, who will be serving our grade 6 to post-grad students. She will be conducting all the team meetings. And since they have walked in the door, honestly, it's like a weight went off my shoulders. They have just jumped right in, no surprise, and taken over. And it's just been absolutely fabulous. So I'm really looking forward to working with them, and it's going to be great. So thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think compared to most years, and I think Beth would probably be able to tell us more, but I think the ABA for special ed inclusion, ABAs and the paras, I think it's the lowest it's been, whereas last year we had a huge number going in.
Yeah.
So kudos to everybody for doing the recruitment, Bill, for getting those taken care of. I love the idea of the inclusion of the sports. Wonderful, fully support that, whatever we can do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I like that you touched on the behavior issue, because I think sometimes people don't necessarily associate special ed with behavior issues, and I think that's probably one of the more, I don't want to say scary, but I think when people talk about class size, I think that in the back of their minds, sometimes people are a little bit nervous because there are children that can not behave how we think that they should behave or would seem appropriate. And it sometimes often may seem to people that there's nothing that can be done. It's just that's what they're going to do, and there's nothing more that can be done, which I don't believe is the case. I think there's a lot of ways to help children in certain ways. But I'm glad that you really touched on that, because I just feel like sometimes that's not really talked about as much.
Well, thank you. There's always a function for the behavior, right? Sometimes we don't like to hear that, but there is always a reason why things happen.
Exactly.
Thank you, Dr. Merritt.
Thank you. Thanks.
One of the things we did this year for the first time was we had new teacher orientation. And typically, we've only done teachers. This year, we had our paraprofessionals and ABAs join us for our new teacher orientation, which was great. They had that little bit of a head start. They got to meet with principals. They got to sit down with Dr. Merrick for a little bit, and they had some PD. So at least they'll be here next week also on Monday and Tuesday, but at least it's a nice little introduction to them for the district. Obviously, staffing is a concern. My emails blow up, my phone blows up. You see, does anyone know of, does anyone know of, does anyone know of? So we're gonna, it's everywhere, so we're gonna continue to do that. Principals have been working with Dr. Merrick on a plan. We have Plan A, which is hopefully hire the staff, then a Plan B, if we can't hire the staff, what are we gonna do? So we're working on that. We've also been out actively looking for substitute teachers to make sure we have substitute custodians, substitute cafeteria workers, substitute nurses, just in case anything happens. We wanna make sure our sub pool is filled out. So I thank everyone for their efforts and hard work. There's a good energy this year in the building, so I'm excited for that, and I'm excited for people to come back on Monday. All right. Mr. Velame, do you want to put up the district accommodation plan? So we heard the principals and Dr. Merrick speak a lot about supports. And this district accommodation plan was something that I started working on in the early spring last year. Principals helped out in the spring and over the summer, and the main document you have is about 60, 70 pages long. We tried to pare it down to 28, which is still long. We're going to go through it just for the committee and the community to see the work that we've done. On the second page, it talks about what is a district accommodation plan, and it's in accordance with Mass General laws that every district is required to adopt and implement a plan, and it serves as a resource for principals, teachers, and staff to ensure that all efforts are made to make sure the needs of students are met in the general education setting. So it's that resource for principals and staff to work with students to make sure we're keeping as many kids as we can in that Tier 1, that good, solid core instruction. On the next page, it talks about the purpose of this. And it's, there's 6 or 7 bullets here. And the purpose of the district-wide curriculum accommodation plan and then the building accommodation plan is the analysis of diverse learning styles within the classroom, accommodations to meet the needs of diverse learning styles within a regular education class, provisions of appropriate services and supports within the gen ed setting, services to address the needs of students whose behavior may interfere with learning, encouragement of parental involvement, encouragement of teacher mentoring and collaboration, and assistance to regular education staff through professional development and collaboration. So again, a resource for supports for our staff so they can in turn better support students. We're going to fast forward to where it says Section 2. And this section outlines and includes a lot of information. Our general education programs, our support services, personnel available in consultation to assist educators, accommodations, PD, volunteer, and community, and resources. So it's just a lot of information that needs to be in the DCAP for people to see. We're going to go to Section 3, which talks about response to intervention. So this gets into the meat of it. RTI is a process where a general education teacher might identify a student who's at risk. The teacher's done what they typically do inside classrooms to meet the needs of students. And then they come together with a team of people, includes the principal, might include the BCBA, might include school psychologist, might include gen ed teachers, and they say, hey, we're really struggling with Paul. And they put together a plan in place through this information that we'll see in a few minutes here as to how we can better support Paul inside the classroom. We collect data, we come back 6 weeks later. Has a student made progress? Has a student not made progress? Do we need to adjust and tweak the plan? So it's just a general education plan in order to better meet the needs of our students in the core curriculum.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So is this done on every student?
It's not done in every student. So you might have, let's say, a third grade classroom, you have a third grade teacher who looks out at their youngsters and says, you know what, this person's struggling, let me try some small group instruction. So the teachers have their bag of tricks they try over a period of time inside the classroom. Over a 3, 4, 5 week period, they notice that that student's not making effective progress. That's when the RTI model would come in. I've exhausted everything that I can do within my classroom. I've exhausted my bag of tricks. I now need to go to another level in order to be able to help support this child, this student. And they'll get together with the principal, guidance, maybe in some instances, school psychologist, school adjustment counselor, maybe the BCBA, whoever is best fitted, depends on what the issues are, and then they'll put a plan in place for the child. Hey, have you thought of, have you tried, have you looked at this? Let me come in and watch and see what happens. Maybe you can go watch this teacher do it because they have a similar child that they have success with. Have you reached out to the parents? So just getting that team in place to talk to the teacher to put some interventions. The next slide really gives you the pyramid of MTSS, and it talks about Tier 1, and that's really where you should have 60 to 70% of your students receiving their services. Your Tier 2 are your targeted services, and that's really where you have about 20 to 30% of your kids. And then Tier 3 are your intensive services, which is specialized instruction, which really should be that 10 to 15%. So this district accommodation plan really focuses in on that Tier 1, that's 60 to 70% of students. We're going to go through the next few pages, and in these next pages, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of accommodations that can be done for students. Our teachers are doing a lot of these. Sometimes they just need to go through the list and say, oh my gosh, I forgot that, or I learned that in a PD a few years ago. But I just want to go through it with you page by page, just for you to see how comprehensive it is. The first page talks about different instructional strategies and activities that teachers can use inside the classroom. Second page speaks to assignments and assessments, different ways you can do assignments and assess kids, self-management and organization of students, different materials and tools and resources available to teachers in order to help deliver the curriculum in a different way. Some behavioral strategies that teachers can use for students, some different ways they can communicate with parents and with others, and how they can better use technology or use technology differently inside the classroom. There's social, emotional, and behavioral strategies here for staff. There's a whole host of things here on executive function, whether it's helping kids initiate tasks, working with working memory, working with organization. There's stuff here on emotional control. There's stuff here, what happens when a student is non-compliant. What do you do when you have elevated activity, meaning that kid who has excessive movement, or a student who may be inattentive inside classrooms. And then this last slide talks about different ways we can help support our EL population. So as you can see, close to 1,000 different strategies, techniques, resources that we can now put in the hands of teachers that if they need more information on, they can work with staff, they can work with colleagues, they can work with administration to implement these.
And this was created with staff here? Or
This was created, so this was a resource that I had in another district
Okay.
that I brought here. And then principals and assistant principals looked at it, added their resources they had. We looked at some other school districts over, I think, late spring, early summer, added some additional resources here. So this is all stuff that came from probably a half dozen different districts.
Okay. Also, is this, so this can also pertain to kids who may not be on IEPs or 504s, but maybe a parent recognizes, you know, hey, I'm finding a lot of unfinished work coming home. It's like, or I think my kid or my child is having some attention issues. So
Correct.
if a parent can bring some concerns to the teacher and they can.
They can do, we'll post this on the website tomorrow. I just want to present to you
Okay.
first. So we'll
So
post
parents
this
will
on the
have it too.
website, so parents can have, it's not a secret, so parents can have access to it. Hey, if you're struggling, if you want some ideas of what you can do for organization, if you want some ideas of what you can do to better manage student assignments, it's here. And if you need help, give us a call. We can kind of help guide you through the process. Then we go to building accommodation plans. And what we did is we took all these things in the district, because not all things apply to primary school students, that might apply to high school students. And principals did a nice job really breaking this up into two different slides. I'll do the primary for illustrative purposes, but it's the same at the elementary, middle, and high school. So what the primary has done is this first page talks about academic resources, structures, and supports, and it's done from the instructional, the assessment, and teacher support lens. And then the next page talks about social emotional resources, structures, and supports, and this is done from the instructional, physical, teacher supports and tools and manipulative standpoint in order to better help students from the social emotional standpoint. And then the slides that follow are the elementary, the middle, and the high school. So this is a resource that we've been working on. Again, we started in the spring. Principals have done a lot of work on it, which is great. They're going to go over it with their staffs at the start of the school year. It'll be posted on the website. But again, teachers have been asking for additional supports. How can we better service kids? Here's a phenomenal resource for them. Again, they know most of the stuff. Those of us who are in education look at it, and like, we do that. But sometimes you get used to having the same bag of tricks and need to be reminded of, oh my gosh, I remember that from a few years ago. I did that in 4 years. I haven't tried it. So it's a great resource for our staff, for the students.
So my question is, I know we do open house. Could we have the principals make sure that the parents are aware of this packet? I think that would be a key
Yep.
factor for how do we get it out to the community, because not everybody goes to the website.
And I'll add it to my newsletter, and if you can add it to your newsletters as well, and we'll talk about open house, yep.
And probably a one call like Courtney just suggested. I think
Okay.
that is probably good too, but just not everybody ignores the one call, but I think if at open house, if we could have that there, that would be a great, useful tool that parents have as a resource. So thank you, everybody, for collaborating with one another.
This is very comprehensive.
Any questions on it?
Nope.
Again, happy just to be able to provide the support to staff and ultimately for our students.
Can I just make a comment? I don't know that a one call is a smart idea, to be honest with you, because like that really like gets people alarmed. Like I feel like that should really be saved for like really urgent things. I feel like if we tell people about this, like for your first day of school packet, that's just my opinion. I just feel like we should kind of save those one calls for, in my opinion. But-
One call's the system we use. We could either actually use the actual phone call.
Yeah, that's what I'm
or we could do it
talking
via email.
Yeah.
It might be something nice just to send out as a separate.
Yeah, an email.
actually
I was thinking you were
email.
gonna
That's what I
make
meant
a
when I
phone
said
call
that.
to people, and I was like, I don't know. I
I try to
wouldn't be
hold the
happy if
phone
somebody was
calls,
calling about
before
that.
I have this discussion,
Yeah,
I try to
that's
hold the phone calls just for major things, because when you see the phone ring,
Right, exactly. If I'm at
Yeah.
work, like I
Oh,
go
yeah.
into paranoia mode, so, yeah.
Yeah, most of them go out by email. The notifications that we just want to
Okay,
make
so
you
that,
aware
yeah,
of things.
so that's
Yeah.
fine. I just think a phone call should be really saved for really urgent things.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
anything else? Right, and then finally is superintendent goals for the 22-23 school year. For those out in the community watching, on August 10th, we got together, I think for about 5 or 6 hours on a Wednesday, and we had a retreat, and we walked through various parts of things, and we ended with the last 2.5, 3 hours looking at my goals for the 22-23 school year. And I'm really excited to present them now because we're going to have that vertical alignment, which my goals have been created. We've worked on the blueprint. We've met with principals. They've started the process of working on their goals, which align to my goals, which will align to the blueprint. When they do the school improvement plan in the next few weeks, the school improvement plan will align to their goals, which aligns to the blueprint, which aligns to my goals. And then ultimately, when teachers write their goals for the school year, they'll align with the school improvement plan, the principal's goals, my goals, and the blueprint. So we'll have that alignment, which is amazing. I just want to go over this quickly with everyone, so people kind of see the vision and the direction that we're going this year, and I know everyone's touched on it already. So there are 4 standards that we have, and under each standard, in total, there's probably about 30 or 40 indicators. Really tough to touch on all those, so we decided to touch on one indicator under each of the standards. So under standard 1, for instructional leadership, we talked about the importance of supervision and evaluation. It's so important for principals to get inside classrooms and work with teachers, see what's going on, provide that feedback to them. It's important for me to work with principals to be able to give them feedback and monitor them when they do supervising. It's important for us to be able to calibrate. So the first goal is around evaluation, to make sure that we're getting inside classrooms, we're seeing good teaching, we're providing teachers feedback, and we know what's going on inside classrooms. The second goal is under management and operations, and the indicator is environment. And that speaks to the importance of making sure that we're creating a safe and healthy environment for both staff and students, and we're taking the social emotional needs of our students into account. So how can we work on that SEL piece? Dr. Merrick talked a little bit about some of the stuff that's coming down the pike, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next few weeks. Standard 3 is family and community engagement, and we looked at indicator 3, which is engagement, which is how can we get parents and families into the school. We talked about it at our retreat on Monday and Tuesday. We had a committee that got together to put together 6 great goals, both the importance of getting families inside classrooms, getting families inside schools, not only during the school day, but before and after school. How can we get parents back inside the classrooms? I don't want to say the word, but people asked, can we go back to how we were before COVID? I said, absolutely. Let's get parents coming in. Spoke with Anthony, spoke with Cindy. It'd be great to have back mystery readers inside classrooms. It'd be great to have parents coming in, maybe on a kid's birthday, and have lunch with them in the cafeteria. Not at the high school level, kids may not like that, but if you're 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, have your mom or your dad come in and do something with you is great. How can we get parents come in and maybe do a cafeteria takeover, or do a library takeover, or do a gym takeover? So just getting parents involved is important. And the last is the professional culture and continuous learning indicator, and I'm just going to read it. It says, develops and nurtures a culture in which staff members are reflective about their practice and use student data, research, and best practices in theory to continuously adapt instruction and improve results. So this is the indicator about making certain that we as educators are reflective on what we do. I had my retreat on Monday. I went home, I reflected, I had to modify some of what I did for Tuesday. We want our teachers to continuously be reflecting. What happened on Monday, we need to adjust and change to Tuesday. We need to be looking at data differently. Our MCAS results are in, we need to start diving into that. How is that going to change what we typically do or normally do in September? We have a lot of training on STARS coming up now in the first 2 days. How are we going to take that information and change some of what we do over the next school year? And then finally, I have 4 goals. The first goal is under professional practice, and I'm just going to read the goal. It says the Douglas Public Schools will provide professional development to faculty and staff to strengthen instruction as a means to improve student achievement. Each school will identify, at minimum, 2 areas in which there are gaps and/or deficiencies in achievement, and to develop a plan to reduce these gaps and/or deficiencies by an identified % by the end of the school year. So principals are in the process of identifying, we talked a little bit about this week, where are their gaps? Is it the equity gap between our high needs population and other students? Do we want to look to make sure that all students are reading at or above grade level? Are we looking at growth percentages? Are we looking at critical thinking? Principals are in the process of analyzing their data to see where can we have the biggest impact in a year in order to make sure that we're closing achievement gaps and kids are succeeding. So my goal is to provide the professional development and the resources to principals in order to be able to drive that change in their building. The second goal is under instructional leadership. It's a student learning goal, and that is ultimately to make sure that our kids are growing and succeeding. We have some gaps. We know we have gaps. We had them before COVID, we had them during COVID. So what can we do to close those gaps? Whether it's in literacy, whether it's in math, whether it's in achievement. Josh and I talked about it, at our retreat. We have a lot of females in our honors programs in our freshman and sophomore grades. How can we get more males into our honors program? That's an area of deficiency. Our AP classes kind of blended, but when you get into STEM and robotics, it's more males than females. People are going to look to see where can we better close those gaps. Third goal is under instructional leadership, and what we're going to be doing is provide an analysis and take a look at our curriculum and make sure that it is taught throughout the grade level. So teachers are going to analyze, for instance, Algebra 1. They're going to look at all the frameworks. We know they're being taught, but how often are they being taught? When are they being taught? What's the frequency? What's the depth? What's the breadth? for each of those standards to make certain that everything is being covered, but it's being covered in depth. That's going to be this year. Then next year, what we need to do is we now need to take a look at our assessments and make sure that our assessments are aligned to the frameworks, to make sure that all of our assessments actually match what's being taught. And then the final goal is under instructional leadership, is under MTSS, and it's making sure that we implement that MTSS system. We talked about it briefly at our retreat, and for those of you who are watching at home, really what MTSS does is it takes the academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs of kids. And it really has two big parts. The first is universal design for learning, which makes sure that when teachers are preparing the lessons, they're engaging, meaning they're finding ways to motivate kids. There's representation, which means they're presenting material to kids in multiple ways. And there's action and expression, which means are they giving kids multiple ways to interact with the curriculum. So when you engage kids, when you present materials in different ways, and when you give kids the ability to interact with material in different ways, it increases achievement. The next piece is equitable access. Got to make sure every kid has a seat at the table. We talked about this earlier, all means all. When kids don't feel like they belong in the class, when kids don't feel that they're valued, when kids don't feel like they matter, they shut down. So how do we ensure that every kid has equitable access inside the classroom? And then we saw the tiers. It's really focusing in on that tier 1 instruction, that good, solid pedagogy, all the stuff that's in that BCAP and that DCAP. It's really driving that home. So we're going to start those discussions. It's going to look different in some of the buildings. I know Ms. Sosha really wants to focus in on differentiation. I know she also wants to focus in on driving home small groups. Mr. O'Brien wants to talk a lot about engagement. So it's going to look different depending on where we are in buildings, but it's really driving home this stuff. This is not a 1-year thing. This is not a 2-year thing. This takes 3-4 years for people to understand, for people to drive home. Josh, how long have you been talking about UDL?
Well, I've been here 5 years, so 5 years, 1 month, and 24 days.
And I think we asked someone if they knew what UDL was. They said, I know what it is. I can't define it, but I know what it is, because Mr. Romano talks about it. So we got to build to that. So those are my goals for the school year, as long as along with the standards. So, any questions?
I'm just looking forward to seeing how this all plays out.
As am I.
I feel like we're moving in a direction to really put strong supports under our kids this year, which I think is super important. And I hope that our teachers and our staff will feel empowered, and then our kids will come home feeling empowered. And I mean, it would just be great overall if we can achieve that. And can you just speak a little bit about the timeline of, I know you put it in this,
Yeah.
but I think just so that we all can.
So there are multiple timelines going on. So the principals are going to submit their goals to me, I think the first or second week of September, and they're going to present here the second school committee meeting in September. So you'll have their goals, which will tie a lot into this. School improvement plans will be presented the first week of October, as will the blueprint be presented the first week of October. So you'll be able to see the detail of everything, end of September, beginning of October. As I did last year, I'll do an update probably in November for my goals in the blueprint. I'll do a mid-cycle review in January. I'll do another review, I think, end of February, March, and then we'll do our final goals and evaluation March, April of next year. So I'll present 4 different benchmarks of progress over the course of the year, and principals can also come back and provide their feedback, but I'll have it embedded in my goals.
Okay, and are we gonna see, like, the STARS happens 3 times a year, will we see that aligned to, where we'll have the STAR data at the mid-year?
We can do that.
Principal
We can do,
feedback?
so I'm gonna have principals present in October-ish, the MCAS data, so we'll look at a little bit of our MCAS data. When do you typically do STARS?
September, we're doing it September, and then January, end of January.
So you'll have your beginning of the year STARS data by early October? So we could present in October the STARS data, and then again in February, because they'll do it in January, and again at the end of the year.
Like, so that'll be rolled into the school improvement plan, I would
Yes,
imagine,
yeah.
as part of the data collection, okay. Okay, that'd be good.
Anything else?
Nope.
All right, thank you. That's it for me for tonight.
Now we're moving on to the school committee and subcommittee reports for accounts payable report.
There does not appear to be an accounts payable report this evening.
Now on to the consent agenda. We need to review the July 27th, 2022 school committee meeting minutes. If nobody sees any issues.
Oh, I do have one correction. The FY 2021 DESE end of the year report and audit. It said, Ms. Keegan said that this report is very short because there weren't any findings. It says many. There weren't any.
That's a huge clarification, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Words matter.
Yes, it does. In that case, it does.
Also, the April 1st, 2020 minutes? I would have abstained. I abstained from that.
Say that again?
So there's April 1st, 2020 minutes, and it has me down as I.
Okay.
And I think there was a question. We have April 3rd for tonight. Is that?
That should be,
They're supposed to be April 3rd?
it's supposed to be April 3rd,
Okay.
not 3/3. Yeah.
That part.
Nobody has any issues with it? I'd be looking for a motion.
I move to approve the July 27th, 2022 school committee meeting minutes.
Motion made by Teresa, seconded by?
With
With corrections.
yeah, thank you
With
so
noted
much.
corrections.
With noted corrections.
Second.
Second by Monique. Beth, if you could just text me or come back on and say whether you approve, abstain, or no, I'd appreciate it.
I believe I heard her say aye.
It's the echo.
Oh, it's the echo,
It's the echo.
She's unmuted now.
So, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor? Anyone abstaining?
Abstain.
Okay, Julie abstained. I did not get anything from Beth, but Beth, if you text me, I will add it to the minutes. Moving on to the next is the school committee executive session meetings from April 3rd, 2020. Be looking for a motion for the executive session meetings minutes?
And as we discussed when we did the last executive session, even if we are not there, we can still
Correct.
vote on them. So I move to approve the April 3rd, 2020 executive session meeting minutes.
Motion made by Teresa, seconded by?
Julie.
Seconded by Julie. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those abstained?
I abstain.
Anyone's vote no, that would be Beth. But I have enough with the motion for it to carry, to be approved. Moving on to the next is the JLCD, CD, medication policy, second reading. So sorry.
It's late. So we have three policies that we read at our last meeting. The first one's the JLCD, which is the medication policy, which just speaks to what we can and can't administer inside the school department. The second one is JLCDR, the administration of over-the-counter medication, and again, there weren't any changes from the first to second reading. And then the third policy is the wellness policy procedure guidelines, and the only change was when we look at the makeup of the wellness committee, we added the counseling department as part of that. So, are there any questions on any one of those three policies?
No.
All right.
Next is going over the school handbooks.
We'll start with Dr. Romano.
So we had some last minute brainstorming that we kind of did in June at the high school for some other ideas that we could do to address some issues at the school. One of them was our attendance, which, I think all schools in the Commonwealth probably in the world took a big hit on attendance over COVID. And we had great attendance before COVID, and we're not really recovering yet. So we looked at some of the ways that we approach unexcused absences and maybe the way that we can try to cut down on them, and the way that we restore credit when students lose credit for those. So our old policy had students were allowed 6 unexcused absences. And remember, that's unexcused absences. That's absences that aren't excused by a doctor's note or a dentist's note or court paperwork or a driver's test or a college visit. Those are just like, I don't want to say freebie days, but just additional days that students get. Well, that makes 24 per year. And to kind of put that in perspective, there are no school months that have 24 school days. That is more than half of a term. So picture from the beginning of a term to when we do progress reports, and then add another week. That's how many days a student can miss under that plan. It's actually twice as many sick days as teachers get. So that typically schools do about 18 days. High schools allow 18 days over the course of a year. So what we proposed was to cut that back down to 5. And that's still kind of a lot, but it's moving in the right direction. And to go with that, we also looked at how we would restore credit if a student goes over those. So the way the policy is written is if you go over those unexcused absences that you're allowed, you lose credit. Your grade goes down to a 50 for the term, regardless of what you actually earned in the class. And you could restore your credit by only having 1 unexcused absence the next term. Well, to me, that kind of puts the resolution of it off by 3 months. And so if the reason that we want students in school is because we don't want them falling behind in work and we don't want them falling behind in their classes, we want them getting their instruction, it made more sense to tie a consequence to it, or a restoration, I guess, actually, to actual academics. And so what we proposed, and again, a lot of things are borrowed in education, and I did borrow this from other principals in the area, is that to restore their credit, instead of the no unexcused absences the next term, to go for something more immediate where once they have hit that 6 unexcused absence, they have to complete, I'm calling it academic detention, I'm sure I could have come up with a nicer name for it, but essentially stay after school to make up academics. And they can do that, they would do that at the rate of 2 hours of that detention per unexcused absence. So we're letting them make up 6.5 hours of school in 2 hours, which is a pretty good deal. And they can make up that time either by staying with a teacher or by staying in our after-school tutoring program that we run 2 days a week. And so they can make up those days that way. And that way, they're not falling behind in their work. They're keeping up with their assignments. Whoever is running the after-school program or the teacher that they stay with can help them to stay caught up on instruction that they missed. And we're kind of tying it back to the reason that we want them here in the first place is we want them to get the instruction and keep up with their work. So that was one of the changes that we were looking to make. The next was
real quick about the unexcused absences, and I know it sounds like a lot, but 15 years ago when we started doing this, you had a sniffle, you called your doctor said come in, it was a $5 copay, they wrote the note to get unexcused. Now, kids are getting sick, they have a sniffle, they have a cold, they have a stomach ache, it's a $30 to $40 copay, and doctors don't want to see you. So, they don't want you coming into the office for that. So, that also encompasses the, I don't feel good, I have a headache, and kids staying home. So, 20 years ago, kids would just go and get doctor's notes for $5, and now they're,
Well, I'm looking at that, but what about the family that goes on vacation and those 5 days are eaten up? I mean,
yeah.
that's,
But it is kind of like I'm trying to help their child stay caught up too, because like they've missed, so, you know, by taking that week-long vacation, you know, they've missed 35 hours of school. And I'm saying, okay, can you give me a couple hours back to make up your work and get caught back up again? Because I know that does happen. And that's why, like, we don't, you know, it's not meant to be punitive, but it is meant to be, you know, you missed school, you missed important things, and we want to try to keep you caught up in those things. The students who are absent most frequently also tend to complete a lot less work.
I agree.
So-
You're going to probably get some irate parents this year when you put this in there, because I know, I don't know how many at the high school, but at other schools, parents take their kids out to go and do those family vacation during the school year. And so this is going to be a change that, I would say at open house, you probably want to have this shown up there too, to make sure that everybody's acutely aware that this is now going to be the policy.
And, you know, if they do take that week-long vacation, like, they've used up their 5, but they still, there's no consequence at that point still. They still have, you know, the other 38 or so days of the term. You know, there's no consequence at that point. If they go beyond that now, well, then we want you to start making up some time so that you can start making up the work that you're missing. So, you know, it does still, like, that's why we still kept it at 5. Like, we didn't go down to something that would bring it to the 18 or like 9 per semester or something like that, because, and again, kids don't have a lot of control over that. You know, if mom and dad book that trip to Scandinavia in March, child typically doesn't have a lot of leeway to say, well, I'm not going because I have school. So,
Is this something that can be sort of discussed ahead of time? Like, that's a planned thing, you know, typically people aren't leaving the next day unplanned for vacation, but, so if that is the case, is that something where a parent can come and say, can we work this out, making sure that they have what they need? I mean, I know it's
yeah, it
not
does happen. And
teacher instruction, but.
Yeah, it does happen. I actually had a parent who came in June to talk to me about a family vacation they're planning for January, and, you know, worried that their child is going to, and that their big worry is that they're going to miss midterms, or that they'll miss the semester change too, so that when their kiddo has new classes starting. So yeah, parents generally do know a little bit in advance, and, you know, they can come in and they can work things out, and you know, it's hard to necessarily get like the work in advance from teachers, you know, if they don't necessarily know what they're doing 5 days from now, or they haven't prepared it already. It puts kind of a burden on the teachers that I don't like to ask them to do, but and a lot of kids won't actually do the work when they're on vacation. If you're in Scandinavia, you're going to go see what's in Scandinavia?
Northern Lights in March.
You're going to go see the Northern Lights. Like, you're not going to be doing your geometry.
Gonna pick Disney.
Homework.
Fjords.
So, the fjords, you're going to be out there in the fjords with the Vikings or whatever, and that's, you know, so they're not doing that work necessarily. But yeah, it is meant to kind of, that's why it's still at 5, because like we didn't go to 4, because well, now like the student automatically has to make something up if they're going to, you know, Scandinavia or Botswana for a week. So
I don't mean to interrupt what you're talking about, but I actually never realized this policy until just now. It's really a shame. I may have been here forever.
well, I think your kids are here all the time, so it's something
I know,
that doesn't.
but I'm thinking about how, like, we've asked children, and I'm wondering if this is why all of a sudden we don't have kids. Like, my kids were never absent. I didn't even know who the nurses were until, like, these past 2 years. My whole entire 3 children going through the school. But if there was a sniffle, or, like, their stomach didn't feel good, or, like, some kid had maybe COVID, they were out. And they would be out. I mean, one of my kids missed almost, like, I'm not going to say, but it was a lot of school because I didn't know. You know, so I feel like that's part of why this happened.
Yeah.
I have to believe, but that would be an unexcused, right? Unless
The COVIDs are excused. Yeah, the COVID ones were excused too, so.
if you contact a doctor or a nurse.
No,
or-
we were pretty because we were really telling parents, like, we don't want you taking the chance of sending your child to school with the COVID, so those were excused.
Okay, so that's good to say that, because see, in my head, I'm like, okay, so now all these 6 kids are gonna start coming back to school again, and here we go again.
Right, yeah, that's why
Who
those
knows
were excused.
what's gonna happen, what kind of flu we're gonna have, or whatever, you know,
We're
who knows
not.
what's, we're not going to, but, you know. All right, so that's good to know.
Yep.
but they're going to get a 50, and that I don't like. But I
Right,
never
and that's
knew
how
that
it was,
part.
and that honestly, that's kind of discouraging too. So if you have a student who is really struggling, and then, they have 7 absences, so now, hey kiddo, I know you worked really hard to get, a 72 in calculus. Sorry, you got a 50. Make sure you're here all the time next term. Like that, I disliked that conversation with you. It was very discouraging for kids too. So, it's kind of keeping a consequence, but putting the remediation right into the consequence at the same time. So, yeah. And then the appeals process is still there of contacting the principal, the superintendent, and then you guys. I don't think we've ever had anybody come to you guys, so. The next piece that we looked at was to kind of strengthen the cell phone policy and the electronic device policy, because you won't believe this, but children are distracted by their cell phones. And we're trying to kind of clamp down on this a little bit. And so what we went with was just some stronger language about things. One, we wanted to stress that students can't bring their own devices. We give them a Chromebook. We don't want them using their own devices. And with the Chromebooks, like we have a lot of tools on there to try to keep them off of distracting sites or unsafe sites. If they bring in their own device, we kind of lose that ability to filter what they're doing, and so we want them to be using our devices instead of their own personal ones. We also try to strengthen the language that we give to teachers to use for cell phones. They have to be in their bag, or they have to be, a lot of teachers have those shoe holders that they put on the door, that they have to be in there, and unauthorized use means that the device can be confiscated. We kind of stress that. We also, this one's a tough one. We're asking that families not contact their student during school hours, like on their cell phone, like call them in English class. It happens more often than you would think, and I get that the parents want to send an important message, but sometimes that can be very distracting for a student or whatever. If you call the office, you get to talk to Mrs. Peck, who's very pleasant, and she'll tell your child, hey, come down, you need to talk to your mom. And they can call on their cell phone, whatever, they can do that, that's fine. It would just be a much more streamlined process if we did that. And then finally, just to reiterate once again, it's in a couple of places, but the prohibition of unauthorized photography or videotaping of, I guess it's not really videotaping, recording Douglas School employees or students. Videotape is such an old word. I don't know if kids would even know what that means. So it's just to kind of give some strength and some extra language to support teachers in kind of cracking down on the cell phone use. And then finally, tardiness, and this is the one where I think Mr. Vega and I kind of went back and forth on this a lot, because this one, as we looked at this, there are some limitations to what our computer system will kind of give us for reports on tardiness. And what we wanted to try to cut down on was the chronic tardiness, the student who is late by 4 minutes, 7 minutes, 9 minutes every single day. And so they're missing this, kind of these micro pieces of instruction that add up really fast. And so we created a spreadsheet that Ms. Brosnahan in guidance is going to fill in to track student attendance on tardiness. And if a student goes over 30 minutes, it lets Ms. Brosnahan know, and then we assign the student to detention based on the minutes that they missed. And we went with the minutes that they missed instead of just straight, you've been late 3 times, you have a half-hour detention, because if we say you have a half-hour detention because you were late for 2 minutes, well, then the student might as well be late for 45 minutes. We made it so that it's however minutes you were late is how many minutes that you have to stay after, to kind of give some more incentive to keep kids here. This is not, I don't think that this is going to be too bad in terms of the amount of kids that Mr. Vega is going to have staying after. It's really just to get those students who are late by a few minutes every day. And again, it's unexcused tardies. So, if you're late because, I don't know, you had a doctor's appointment or something in the morning or something, those are excused. It also will give some data that Ms. Bennett and Mr. Vega can use, because right now we don't have that access to that data on the time that students are late, just the incidence of being late, not the amount of time. And I think that that's data that they can use to kind of address problem issues. So we wanted to give this a try. The spreadsheet piece of it is the part that's going to be maybe a little bit of a challenge, but I think from there it's good data that the school can use, and it's good to kind of hold some accountability for the students who roll in 6 minutes late because there was an extra long line at Dunkin's.
So at BBT, I know they count tardies differently. They count it actually towards an excused absence, a certain number of them.
Yeah, ours do as well, yep. This kind of just ties a more immediate consequence to it, because that takes a while to rack up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just wanted to talk to something about the cell phone usage during the school day. So I'm just trying to think, I mean, these kids, they're on their cell phones they have them all the time. Some people have jobs, like, after school. I'm just thinking, like, there are times when, like, somebody's employer may say, hey, do you think you can come in after school or something like that? And I think they kind of need to know. And I'm just wondering if maybe there could be an exception if a kid checks it, I don't know, at lunchtime or.
Yep, we have that in there, because we did talk about that, like, because we do have a lot of kids who work, or, you know, they do need to hear from
babysitter
mom
or
and dad,
something,
you know,
yeah.
hey, you have to pick up your little brother after work or whatever, or after school. And so they, you know, we still allow them to use them in the hallways in passing time. We allow them to use them at lunch and things like that. What we don't want them is, you know, taking
middle
the
class.
phone to the bathroom with them to have a 15-minute conversation with somebody. So we did, in recognition of that, you know, kids our age do have that, and they have those responsibilities, so we wanted to make sure that they still had access to them, like in the hallway, in between classes and things like that, lunch.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm so sorry, because you know what, I was looking at the current language and I saw proposed and I didn't look at the next page.
Well, I didn't highlight that piece of
Yeah.
it, so yeah, but we do still allow, because, you know, again, I acknowledge that if you tell a student they can't use their phone for 6.5 hours, you've made them take like a vow of silence effectively, based on their communication patterns now. I get it. I mean, you know, even Scotty's phone went off tonight, so. Oh, my God. Things happen, so.
Things happen.
And of course, mine's sitting right there, so.
Have you had any issues with people losing the Chromebooks and,
Losing them?
yeah,
Not losing them, damaging them sometimes. We do have some issues. Students do get billed for that.
where they haven't had a Chromebook to use and then they request to use their smartphone?
We have actually, yes, and that's where, like, there is some discretion in there for teachers to allow a student to use them really quickly.
Okay.
You know, for something in class. What we're trying to do though is I don't want students to, and hopefully none are watching, I don't want them to figure out that, well, if I just don't bring my Chromebook, teacher will let me use my phone, and then, sure, I'm using my phone to follow along on Google Sheets, but if I, you know, check out Snapchat while I'm on there or whatever, Snaptogram or
Do we have
Instachat.
loaner Chromebooks that we?
We do, and actually Ms. Bennett had the great idea, like, well, maybe their
Turn in your
phone
phone
is the
to get
collateral
one.
for, see, look, everybody else has this
Oh,
idea
yeah.
just naturally, and I didn't. So this is why I need to go, because I'm out of good ideas.
Yeah, I like
So-
that idea.
These are all good ideas.
Also, is there like a first offense, second offense, third offense written in the handbook, like?
Yes, for all of these things, actually, there's incremental discipline for
Okay.
it, yeah, based on how many times it's happened. Yep. Anything else?
Nope.
These are my last good Douglas ideas, so.
Going out with a bang.
You have a couple out-of-state field trips coming up, right?
Oh, I do. That's not a good idea, though. That's just something I do every year.
So I'd be looking for a motion for someone to approve.
I move to approve the additional handbook changes to the Douglas High School Student Handbook as attached.
Motion made by Monique, seconded by
Teresa?
Teresa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. O'Brien.
Can we do Josh?
Oh,
Sometime the middle school has to go first, either one thing or the other.
put ya.
When I came on board last year, the superintendent charged me with cleaning up the middle school handbook. And in a lot of districts I've seen, handbooks become like the junk drawer in the kitchen. A policy has to go in, policy comes out, becomes a mess. So there was a lot of repetitiveness and kind of a haphazard look of how the handbook would be set up. So working with Dr. Romano and Ms. Sosha and Mr. Bell, we got together as an admin team, and we came up with the idea that we'll have the legal part of the handbook all together, the stuff that has to be in there by state law, and then we'll have addendums for each school. So we'd have the high school, the middle school, elementary, and primary. So we worked together and we carved out that little niche, and with the help of Kim Merrick, who just finished up looking at the sped stuff, give it to the lawyer, that was our charge this year. There was a lot of dated material, what's the word I'm looking for? iPod. Right? No, that was in that, and just trying to find things like.
Pagers?
What's that?
Pagers and beepers?
Pagers and beepers. There was some, some of the
BlackBerry.
material was dated all the way back to 2013. So trying to go through and take that out and clean it up so parents can look through it and find out the information they need for it. And if there was a change that had to be made because of a certain school committee policy, you wouldn't have to change that in every addendum because that would be in the beginning of the book to go by the student handbook. There was no changes at the middle school besides trying to clean that up and make that more user-friendly. Things like, an iPad, we have Chromebooks now, and that type of thing. As we go forward, we'll bring ideas to the school committee. But the charge was make this readable for parents so it could come out. So no, not asking for any policy changes, just cleaning up the language. Little things like DYS is now DCF, or a CHINS is now a CRAW. That language in there really needed a lot of work.
I want to thank the principals too. Last spring, they got together probably about a half dozen times to clean it up, and probably took them 2 or 3 to figure out what the format was, but I remember looking at that handbook before Mr. O'Brien started, and it was long. There was a lot of information. I think yours, Josh, was close to 100 pages, wasn't it?
It was over, actually.
Yeah. So it's really tough for a parent to get a handbook with 100 pages in it, and then they're supposed to read and sign off on it as are the students. It's a lot of reading.
So is there going to be like some like alignment to the format in those like different separate schools? Like, I can tell you there's always a talk out there as to nowadays when's the right time for a kid to have a cell phone. Like I'm sure there are some elementary students who carry a cell phone and they're, it's getting younger and younger, but, is the format going to be similar so that if I have a kid in middle school, I have a kid in elementary school, I want to know what the policy is, I can easily find it?
The policies are going to be different depending on the school. Cindy's not going to have a 4-hour detention for a tardy, where Josh is going to.
He doesn't have a section on pregnant students.
She does not. But there is some level of consistency, which is why they got together. The content might be a little bit different based off of an 8th grader to a kindergarten student. But we tried to keep the format pretty consistent.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you.
Ms. Sosha?
So I only have 2 little changes in our handbook. One of them, it's just a timing change. It's for preschool, and we always had preschool drop-off at 8:30. So the teachers would be at the door at 8:30. No later, no earlier. The kids would come in, close the doors, and then the parents are running. So we're going to give them that window, 8:25 to 8:35, put one of the preschool paras there to allow students and parents to bring their kids in. So it just made sense. They're parking in the parking lot. It's an issue, parking. They're running down the driveway trying to get to the door before it closes. And then if they didn't make it, they were coming in the front door. So, it just didn't seem like it was doable. And then the other change is about ice cream and popsicles for birthdays. With all of the allergies and going on, we're just not going to allow food items at all for birthday celebrations. I usually give them a birthday card, a birthday bookmark. I know the classroom teacher does some things, and, maybe the suggestion, like Dr. Vieira said, we could do something different. So we haven't talked about it as a staff as what that could be. Could it be a lunch with the parent or a grandparent, something like that? But there's red dye allergies, and, one time we did popsicles or Hoodsie cups. Well, parents didn't read that, and they were coming in with every kind of ice cream cup, and then we had to tell them they had to take it back. So we're just going to eliminate food items altogether. That's all I have for changes.
Questions? We can need a motion. Can someone make a motion?
Be looking for a motion for someone to approve all the school handbooks at the primary, elementary, middle school, and high school.
I'll make that motion as noted.
Motion made by Teresa, seconded by
Second.
Second by Monique. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone nay? Anyone abstaining? Okay, thank you all.
Then one more, Mr. DeFonso has a few little changes.
Thank you. Hi again.
Hello.
So we do have some similarities for updates. The birthday treat, bringing in treats, it was also something that we're adopting in terms of no outside food. The previous version was pretty extensive, specifically talking about the popsicles and hoodie cups, but where allergies are so pervasive now, we need to be safe and make sure our kiddos are safe. So that is a way to do it. There was a lot of this work, a lot of the hard work that Mr. Bell and the other administrators did last year is what I inherited. So most of this information is from that. One other thing they added about invitations for birthday parties, which in an elementary school can be a very sore spot for kids and create a lot of potential problems. So we're asking that students are not allowed to pass out invitations unless there's one for everybody. If you're doing a girls' party, all the girls, a boys' party, just because I think that eliminates a lot of, especially in today's world with SEL being so such a big piece of it, it'd be really detrimental to an elementary student to be not invited if everyone else is. You know what I mean? So that was added. We had in our health section, aside from the narrative about what to do if you have a fever, etc., there was a visual chart added too, just to supplement that. You know, if you have a fever, you shouldn't stay home. If you vomited for the last 24 hours, that kind of stuff. Just so people can be reminded of that, expectations. A couple other quick things. There was some verbiage added about the dress code, kind of making it more succinct. And Mr. Bell had done that. And one thing that I just took from a previous year, just some examples of acceptable attire, just as a point of reference for some families, that they might not really realize that this is not something that they should be doing. And it was all from the year before. So that was added. Step Up Day, there's a section on Step Up Day for 5th grade students. That was just put in. And section on report cards was, narrative was changed, and one thing that just about 2nd and 4th grade use standards-based report cards, where 5th grade is more traditional than numerical grades. So that was updated, and the chart of dates was removed, and I think will be provided on its own merit, on its own entity, versus just being stuck in a handbook. So it might be easier for parents to see that versus, looking through page 16 of a handbook. We'll try to make it more prominent and easier for parents to see. So that's it.
Questions?
I do have a question in terms of the food items.
Yeah.
So, what about school activities? I think we said outside of the school hours. We had Kona Ice Truck come, one time. I mean, that was an exciting thing for kids. We had popsicles with the principal. So, I mean, are we continuing with those types of things?
So stuff that happens, I think the rule is it's after midnight and within half hour after the end of the school day. We can serve anything that's through the school that's done through the cafeteria, that falls under the cafeteria guidelines. After half hour beyond the school day, so school day gets out at 2:30, anything after 3 o'clock, the concession stands when you go to a football game, a basketball game, don't have to follow school rules. A lot of schools are moving away from food celebrations just because of all the allergies that are out there, all the things that are happening, and not excluding kids from it. Mr. DeFonso talked about invitations. That was a sore spot in another district I was in where you had a class of 25 kids. The kid would say, "Oh my gosh, I'm having my birthday party at Pins," and then handing out 5 invitations to kids in front of the entire class and saying, "Sorry, the rest of you aren't invited, but you 5 are." So we're just asking families, if that's going to happen, to send those invitations out through another form, as opposed to just doing it inside the classroom in front of kids and excluding 20
thought that was
kids.
already policy. I mean, I know when my kids went through the primary and elementary, maybe it's the teachers that did it. It was the teacher's policy, not in the handbook. But I do believe that is already a policy that the teachers do reiterate to us as parents when we're going through. So, I mean, that's why I'm like,
Popsicles, I think, and Hoodsie Cups they've been allowed
Yeah, that,
through the
but-
first two, schools, I think.
right. I'm talking about the invitation to the parties.
Oh,
Yeah, so he's transitioned.
sorry.
It's all right.
But I'm still concerned about so are we not doing Kona trucks? Are we not doing Kona ice?
A lot of those events, parents are with the children. I know
Okay.
PTO does like an ice cream social.
That's a big
Yeah.
difference.
Parents are with the child.
So we're still going to do those things?
Issue.
Okay,
Are those happening during the school day or after the
No,
school?
they
Yeah,
usually
it can't be during the school.
Just
day.
after the school day?
Yeah.
okay,
That's
but
different,
like
yeah.
not at a field day or anything like that? We're not having any of those kind of celebratory things for our
It
students?
would have to fall under the school lunch,
USDA,
the
yeah.
USDA regulations.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's,
And it's in our wellness policy, I believe, as
That-
well, because
well,
that's required.
it's
Yeah.
beyond our control, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
So anything after midnight and up to half hour after the end of the school day has to follow USDA guidelines. So if we want to serve those jumbo donuts, that's what the high school kids always ask, can we bring back the jumbo donuts for lunch? We can't serve them during the school day. Half hour at the end of the school day, we can absolutely do that. But we're really regulated as to what we can and can't serve from midnight to half hour at the end of the school day for kids. Which is why teachers are getting away from giving candy to kids, why teachers are getting away from doing those things for kids.
That's unfortunate. Because our teachers aren't held to that, and our PTO is always doing food-related things for our teachers, and our kids don't get to enjoy those. I don't know. I understand the allergy thing, but if we are, as a staff, if our staff knows our students and is keeping track of who do we need to be careful of and makes their decisions based on that, I mean, I would
It's not
think
just
that-
because of allergies, it's the USDA, which
I
has
know,
everything to do with the allergies.
which is
yeah.
really sad, but
Yeah.
I hope that we'll be able to do like after-school stuff at least, making sure we have events, have things like that at an event where, because kids are not going to stop being kids because
Yeah.
of all this, so.
I know,
It's a touchy topic.
I know. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have DMS out-of-state athletic contests and DHS out-of-state athletic contests.
Once again, this fall, the cross-country team is seeking permission to attend a Rhode Island cross-country meet. They went to it last year, good time. They enjoyed it. Kathleen Hayes is returning as a cross-country coach. We're hoping to get the numbers up because the high school needs a couple eighth graders on their cross-country team. We have the kids out there practicing, but this kind of highlight of their season to take the trip down to Rhode Island for the cross-country tournament. I think you have all the information in front of you for the trip.
Does anyone have any questions? Be looking for a motion?
Move to approve permission for the DMS cross-country team to be allowed to travel to Rhode Island for this event.
Motion made by Julie, seconded by?
Teresa?
By Teresa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is easy.
So the high school, we do several official contests in Rhode Island, including the golf team, cross-country team, and the indoor and spring track teams, along with, we've done some scrimmages in the past in schools in Rhode Island. We kind of take advantage of our proximity to Rhode Island, and I think the boys soccer team did a scrimmage there last year. And those kind of come up on short notice, so what I have started asking for is just sort of a blanket permission for athletic contests out of state. I did this last year as well, and it worked pretty well. When we have like field trips and things like that, Ms. Bennett will still come for specific permission.
So I move to approve permission for the athletics program at DHS to participate in regularly scheduled matches and games held out of state for the 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
Motion made by Julie, seconded by Teresa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone abstained? Anyone no? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Romano, your last official act is the disposal of obsolete furniture.
Oh, I almost forgot that was on there. So, we've been kind of, as we've moved away from computer labs, stationary computer labs, we've continued to break up old computer desks, and we've tried to repurpose the best of them. The ones that are kind of in really rough shape, we've just been trying to dispose of, and so we've asked for permission to remove another set of those, and then if we get permission for that, then Jeff Collette will have a plan to actually do the disposal. So it just kind of helps us to free space for other purposes. In this case, these are coming out of the room that we've given to the STARS program for next year.
Awesome. Any questions or discussion? Looking for a motion?
I move to approve the disposal of 12 obsolete and excess computer desks that have no value at DHS.
Motion made by Teresa, seconded by? Julie. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Next is the job description for a student activity club advisor.
Yes, I believe I mentioned this before, where we do have some, I would consider key positions that actually they do collect and turn over funds, and they have some other procedural responsibilities that are extremely important. So I thought it was good to have one for both the student activity club advisors and for the after-school enrichment program coordinators. And this allows us to attach this to our posting, so that before they respond to the posting, that they understand, what the responsibilities are and what the expectations are as well. So I didn't know if anyone had any questions on the one for student activity club advisor or the after-school enrichment program coordinator. I think it's good to have these for those types of positions.
Anyone have any questions? I'd be looking for a motion.
Do we have these positions right now?
Oh, yes, we've had them for years.
They just didn't have job descriptions. We're going through all the
And even though it's not a regular full-time position, it is a stipended position. These are very important positions where they're handling money and things of that nature, so I think it was very important to have these.
I move to approve the after-school enrichment program coordinator and the student activity club advisor job descriptions.
Motion made by Teresa, seconded by?
Julie.
Julie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, the next one is for the FY 2023 high school and middle school athletic fees. And in the agenda item summary, I did basically lay out the historical fees from for FY 2016 through 2022 for the high school, and 2018 through 21, and then 22 for the middle school. So as you can see, for the high school, in 2016, it was $300 per sport, no caps. $300 the next year. Then it was reduced to $225 in 2018, reduced to $200 for 2019. And then it was kept in $200 in 2020, but we did institute the fee schedule inclusive of individual and family caps to allow and accommodate for that as well during 2020. Same thing in 2021, and then in 2022, we reduced it another $20. So as far as a per sport, it's gone from in 2016, $300 per sport down to $180. For the middle school, from 2018 to 21, it's $175 per sport, per student per sport, no caps, and $160 for FY22. So costs have increased dramatically for everything, and as you know, with the DTA contract just being signed, also the coaches' fees have increased as well. And when I say dramatically, there are things, which I'm sure I'm not telling anybody anything. I think everybody's dealing with it at home as well, so we don't need to elaborate on that at all. We did receive, the high school athletic program did receive a $10,000 donation to spend on the athletic program, but it is yet to be determined, and I'm going to be sending out an email when Mary returns to school to work with the principal, and if she and the principal can get together and talk about, and actually provide a spending plan, kind of proposal, so to speak, to myself and Dr. Vieira, so we can take a look at that. But they do have a number of things that they, aren't able to purchase over and over and over again, that maybe that could be put to use for. Again, that would be up to them to come up with that. But that doesn't necessarily, something like that you would usually want to spend on something that you purchase only every 3 to 5 years, not utilize it for your yearly expenditures. And the budgets are also going up every single year. So, and as you'll see too, the amount that we've been needing from the general fund has increased every year as well. So my concern is just want to keep the program sustainable. We're not recommending an increase at all, but I would really like to maintain what we have now. Participants have greatly decreased over the years for a number of reasons. We have lowering enrollment, we had the whole COVID situation, it's just beginning to ramp up. But we don't want to now, I wouldn't recommend lowering the fees now, and then finding us anywhere near a problem of having to eliminate or any sports or the program and go back to where we were in prior years that we all do remember very well. So that would be my recommendation, is to maintain the fees as they are currently, and certainly we'll take another look next year. We're preparing the FY24 budget, see how things may change with the number of participants, and hopefully we'll have no more of that word that we don't want to use anymore, any of these types of situations that we've had in the last few years, because everything's going to get better. And then certainly we do look at this every single year, so certainly have an opportunity to do that in '24 again.
I know it says here that we will review the financial situation in 2024 budget to see if an increase in fees is warranted at that time. And I really hope that we don't go that route.
Oh, I
mean,
understand.
We've been decreasing since 2016 for what you supplied us. And, I think the goal is to continue in that trend.
Well, I guess
If
what
we
I'm-
can.
Yeah, I know, and why I put that in
Or
there.
stay where we are.
Right, but, exactly, but the reason that I worded it that way, to be honest with you, is to I'm extremely concerned with the financial, just the times we're in right now, and trying to maintain. I mean, as you think about everything that we've spoken of tonight regarding all the needs of the district and for all of the different needs of the students, and all of those things cost money, and we're just trying to spend money in so many different directions. I would be so happy if we could maintain the fees we have now. But I guess I'm putting it that way, that, in other words, I'm happy to be able to maintain and not have to increase. But decreasing, I don't know about that going forward. But we'll, of course, we'll take a look at it at that time.
Can I ask a question? You on this page says individuals cap, playing 1 season, 180, playing 2 seasons, 400. So I'm like paying more money to play 2 seasons? It's on that third page.
Where are you?
Right, so it'd be like you played football and now you're playing basketball. So instead of playing.
Yeah, this is the same one we've had for years.
But why is it 180
Yeah,
for
not
like?
360.
Yeah, why is it not 360? Why? Because I'm affected by that. I got a
Yeah,
daughter
this
that does
is
3
what was approved.
But that doesn't
Yeah.
add up.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. Something's not right in those figures.
Right.
180 and then 2 seasons, now you're paying
Yeah.
$200.
Yeah.
You should not be making
Yeah, I
people
don't
pay more money.
So I don't. Yeah,
I know,
I know.
I'm just
Yeah,
talking-
I'm just saying
wait,
this is what
I
was.
see-
Yeah.
I just think that we
Playing
should not be
2.
charging more money to
Okay,
pay.
hold on, let's
free
take a look
sports.
at it, let's see, individual with cap, 1 season, playing 2 seasons.
Good catch.
Is
I'm
it
going to make an
because-
assumption, and
I've
you
been
know what
sitting here
happens
the
when
whole
you
time
assume.
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
I'm
If
guessing
you
it
look
was
at
still
FY20,
200.
correct.
I think they meet, I'm sorry?
If you
You
look
didn't
at,
change the numbers?
correct, in FY21, it was 200 per sport, then in FY22, we lowered it to 180 per sport. So it looks like what happened when the sheet was
Maybe.
prepared. Season 1 was 180, and they never went through and changed season 2 and season,
You know, that
3.
could be, because that was done, I think it was done, that reduction was done like at the meeting.
Good catch.
I'm just like, I'm not going to tell everybody that, like, my daughter's playing this sport. I'm not going to tell it, you know?
You know, that could
Obviously
be,
not.
yeah.
yeah.
So I would have to have them,
And
go
go
back
back,
and take a
yeah.
look at the whole schedule again.
But luckily, we don't have to worry about
Yeah.
2 seasons until the
Right,
Monday after Thanksgiving, so.
Yeah,
at
we'll
least we have a
definitely
little bit of
have-
Time,
yeah, I'll meet with, yeah.
Mary.
As a survivor of the 2016-2017 with 2 kids and each played a sport every season, I really like this.
But it was changed at the top. I don't know. Anyway,
It was
okay.
changed.
Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at it.
Let's not change everywhere
Yeah,
else.
yeah. So we've had the discussion anyway, and then we'll bring this for September 7th. Yeah, yeah, thank you.
So we'll continue this.
Yeah, yep, definitely.
It's still a good deal, no matter what. I know it's hard to believe, even though I pay $50 for sports over at BBT, but that's a whole nother story, but you do get a really good deal here. The sports program is phenomenal. Just a little plug.
And the other thing too is we have added a few sports. I don't want to keep anything more that we can offer the students, you know, especially after everything they've gone through, so. Okay, thank you.
Next, we're going to go to the school business and operations managers report.
So for this, so as far as beginning of the year, the bus routes and bus stops have gone out. We did do a one call, the email one call, to let parents know. So we're going through that process. Bye-bye. And so that's going well. And so for this evening, I have the transfers. Now, all this is just moving the money around within the general fund budget, just to bring it down, just to clean it up. I don't even have to do it, but I just have to have a clean report, which I've also provided to you. Otherwise, you're going to see minuses and pluses in all of the lines, and I just can't leave it like that. So I don't. Every year, Gina and I talk about this, do we want it? But neither one of us can not do it. So that's all this is just moving. So I have transfers number 1 and transfers number 2. Because it's a quite daunting process to go through it, so we end up sometimes needing two of them. So they get posted, and then we have to go through them again. Because basically, every single line in the budget that you're moving money to and from. That's all it is. So does anyone have any questions on what these are, or? So if you look at the general fund report that I provided to you as well, that's why you'll see zeros in the available budget. Doesn't change anything with regard to expenditures or budget or anything like that at all. It's only the end line, just so that it comes out looking clean. Yep. All it is. And as you're aware too, the way last year went, I hardly was able to get transfers done. So, you know, they kind of basically ended up being done all at the end of the year.
This comes from what fund?
Oh, this is all general fund. This is all general fund.
Okay.
Yep, all general fund.
Yep. So
Just within the general fund, moving funds, as you're taking all the positives and moving them to the negative accounts, it comes right down to zero.
Yep.
I move to approve the fiscal year 2022 year-end transfer school committee meeting August 24th, 2022, number 1 and number 2.
Second.
Motion made by Julie, second by Teresa. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay.
And I just want to give a shout out particularly, again, to the custodians. As you, I don't know if you are aware, but we still have been short. We've been short custodians for some time, and they have been phenomenal. And the new hires that we've gotten in, that we have been able to get, which I've been so happy about, have been phenomenal. They've been willing to do, you know, overtime, they come in on Saturdays. It's just really, really working out great. And we have the middle school second shift position is still open, but we do have an interview next week. We're moving one of our current custodians. He wants to go from the 10 to 6 to a daytime position, so that will become open, and we'll be posting that. So once we get that done, we'll be in good stead. And I also was able to bring on another sub, which is very good, because we can never find custodial subs. So we're in a very, very good position right now, even though we still have a little bit left, you know, to do in that area. But they've done a wonderful job. We're very appreciative. And you heard all the comments from the principals as well.
Are you
I'm
still
sorry?
doing like the fogging stuff and the deep cleaning stuff?
Oh, no.
It's done? Okay. So they're back to just doing regular custodial?
But still with, you know, wiping down, you know, handles and things like that more, as far as disinfecting and, you know, extra cleaning. But not the fogging this time.
So I just want to do a couple of addendums. Beth Bergstrom did text me. She is listening live, but we have feedback with the Zoom. She did vote to approve the high school policy update. She said aye. The handbook updates for the primary middle school, she said aye. The Douglas Middle School sports, aye. Douglas High School sports, aye. Furniture disposal is an aye, and then the job descriptions is aye. I think I got all of
I mean, the out-of-state trips, right?
Yep,
For
the
right,
out-of-state trips.
yeah.
She approved the executive session meeting minutes notes too as well. I think I caught all of them that I have. The only one that she did not come through yet with is the FY22 year-end transfers and reclassifications and balance report, approving that yet. I haven't gotten that one, so the record can reflect that. I know that we did not put it on the agenda for this week, but can we do the school calendars for the school committee review for next time we come? Because I know we have to change one of the.
Couple of things, yeah.
Couple of dates there. The building facility, construction committee for the town, we need to have, some sort of census. Yeah, what we're doing with that position. There is also, it was sent over from the town clerk, the wanting us as school committee to fill out all of our POC information. I did not see that on the agenda. I know it went to you and,
What information?
the town wants to have our information of who's all on the school committee. I don't know if they're putting together. I know it went to
Okay.
you, Paul, myself, and the secretary. I didn't see that.
What kind of information?
It's just our information of who it is, where we live, and the phone number.
Oh, okay, that doesn't have to be a school committee meeting, but just to complete
It's-
it and get it
Where does
done.
that get posted?
Yeah.
Like your,
I think it's
home
part of the
address?
time, well, you already know.
yeah, but
So-
does that get posted for people to see, like publicly?
I don't know, again.
I'll get
it-
some more
it-
They do prepare something that just shows,
It's
when
what
your
it's
term
on.
is done, the committees, the names of people on the committees and when the term is up, for all of the committees and boards in town.
Right,
They have
but
one
like your-
document.
your home address?
Lisa Freeman sent out the email
Oh.
to
I'll take a look at it.
I hope
That I
not.
don't remember
that, yeah.
seeing, but,
So I just,
yeah. That's
I
probably
I
more of
didn't
an
see it. I
internal.
thought that it would have been part of this. So there's that. That's,
Also, are we gonna have another discussion about school choice? We
School
had said we were
choices.
gonna visit that in
We're gonna
August.
We're going to revisit that, it was either the first or second meeting of September. My memory's fading me right now at this hour of the
I
night.
think it was after school
It was
opened up.
after school opened up, we were going to do
Maybe
it.
the
We
second.
usually did
Probably the second.
we usually closed school choice in October for grades K to 8 and left it through November for 9 through 12. We've already closed school choice for several grades. We didn't offer it in 2 or 3 grade levels, and I know in a couple of other grade levels, we've already reached.
Based on who's come into the district, is that what, because I think we were just, because at the time, we lowered the numbers at that meeting in the spring.
Correct.
And then we said we would look at it again to see if we still wanted to go forward with what we had decided at that time.
We had left the numbers lowered.
Yeah.
We've already closed, we already have a couple of grades where we had a cap of 3 kids, we hit our 3 kids, and we closed it there. I'll come up once the dust settles. I signed 2 more school choice forms today for students. So
Do we know what school?
one was at the primary, one was at the elementary.
Okay.
I don't remember the
I
grade.
think there was more room. Okay.
So, one was at the primary, one was at the elementary, but I'm not sure of the grades. But I'll come once school starts and kids enroll. And just because you sign up for school choice doesn't mean you may not walk through the door the first day.
Yeah.
So I think we'll do that probably the second school committee meeting and then make a recommendation to close school choice, effective, first week in October. You don't want to let that
Second
linger.
meeting,
Yeah,
second,
meeting.
okay, in
I know I have a
September.
note back in my
Do we-
office.
so-
where-
Okay, you don't know off the top of your head if there's anything more available in the middle school, do you? I think that was our primary concern at the
6th
time.
grade's closed.
Which we had kept that at 0.
6th grade, you were kept at 0. 8th grade, I believe we hit I'm 99% certain we hit our cap because I had a parent email me to school choice and we hit our cap. I don't know where we are with 7th grade,
Okay.
off the top of my head.
We said the 6th grade was already closed, so that,
Yeah, that 6th grade we kept closed. We didn't.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm like thinking 7th grade could close too at this point, especially since 6th grade is bigger than we anticipated at the time.
Anybody else got anything else that they want to have discussed for next school committee meeting that wasn't?
Grade 7 is now closed as well. So K is closed, 4 is closed, 8 is closed, 6, 7, and 8 are all closed, as is 3rd and 4th.
Well, that's good. That's
Yeah.
positive. That's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah.
Just worry about 6th grade. If nobody has anything else, I would like a motion to adjourn school committee meeting on August 24th at 9:14 PM.
I move to adjourn school committee meeting on August 24th at 9:14 PM.
Motion made by Teresa, seconded.
Or Julie?
Julie, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone